Welcome all in the knowledge work space. We often, most often actually, including myself and I would say I will include myself a lot in this one. We are a lot of the time busy and basically more than busy. But are we doing all the time? Are we delivering value? Maybe sometimes, maybe not. And this is what I'm arguing for that we need to make, especially for if I go into the presentation, especially for people like me, the project managers, or as Valrada calls, delivery managers. I guess that's what I'm arguing that, I would say for myself for sure, I'm busy most of the time, but I don't think I'm valuable all the time, right? And this is what I'm trying to talk about, that how can we make our time more valuable? And of course, the tool, the navigator for us is going to be various AI tools or systems and techniques. And again, I would put a disclaimer here. It's not a Copilot demo. It's not a chat GPT demo or anything of that nature. It is more on the concept side that, what do we need to do? What do we need to change in our thinking process so that we can utilize the recent developments in AI era better in order to help ourselves as a knowledge worker, as a project manager, or whatever we do in the daily basis. Okay, so we'll move ahead. I personally believe that, again, it's in the same line that we often confuse the activity with achievement. We do a lot of activity. I do a lot of activities, but I don't achieve. I'll give some examples. We often use statements like, "Oh, we delivered everything in the SOW." But okay, that's great. But did we actually achieve the actual client's goals, right? We say that all this, typically in our delivery projects, we say that we do ceremonies, right? We do sprints, we do sprint planning, sprint this, sprint that, all the other ceremonies, we do that. We often take pride in doing them on the time. But are they producing the decisions or the results which we are actually after? Or if we are just producing attendance, essentially, right? So that's another statement we make, right? We often say, and I think all the DMs are culprit doing that, myself included. PSRs went on the schedule, like we send the PSRs on the schedule to the customers. That's great, but is anybody reading them? Is anybody even trying to take the value out of them, which those PSRs are supposed to be? A PSR, by the way, if anybody doesn't know, I'm talking about project status reports. So yeah, that's another thing. I'm just putting up some examples. I mean, workshops are booked and done on time. Perfect. Awesome. Double thumbs up. But did they achieve what the workshop was supposed to achieve? Or we just did like a checkbox item? So essentially what I'm trying to say, we often say all these things, but we don't know whether the actual value was achieved, or we actually achieved something, or we just were just doing a tick box, like a lip service kind of a thing, right? Okay, so and from this point onward, I will go more and more into the argument I'm trying to make, and ultimately we will discuss some techniques as well. So, like at the moment, you can say, I mean, and by the way, when I use the term AI era, I really mean it, because you can confidently now say that we are living in AI era right now, because it is like, say it was like November 2022, when the chat GPT was launched, and everything kind of just started flowing from that point. So we are almost 3 years into that period. So it is quite a long time by the current pace and definition. So in my view, the focus has been for the PMs and the project managers or delivery managers have been on these administrative outputs, as we call it. But that should be, in my view, uh, more on the, I would say, truthful analysis of the situation. When I say situation, I mean to say the progress, the quality outputs, the risk, the risk for the project, the business value, and many other things like that. There's a double quote on the truth. I have not used it here, but I'm just saying that there's the double quote is on the truthful analysis to be done, and the direction we should take from that truthful analysis. Not like just doing administrative outputs, like okay, we have a schedule, we have some minutes of the meetings, status reports, blah blah blah, right? So yeah, so the focus in the AI era for the PM ship or the PM or the project management should go from typical administrative outputs into the truth-seeking measures using the technology, and then the further, and of course, that will ultimately lead to the course correction measures, which I would like us to be doing more and more. Moving on. So in order to achieve that, I think the first thing we need to attack is to change the delivery mindset, right? And what do I mean by that? This is another thing which I keep I keep hearing a lot of time, that the PMs or the delivery managers are just mere facilitators. I mean, yes, they are, but I think their role is much bigger than that. Or if it was not, it should be much bigger than that, especially in this current era which we are living in, right? So we should move ahead, or you can say move above from just acting as a facilitator for all these events into something which I would rather call like a progress leader, right? And when again, you will get to know what I mean by that, right? So essentially what I'm talking about is a role or a person or multiple people in the group who have number one, who have a deep pulse, or I would say track on where everything is. And of course, that is not going to happen automatically. We will have to build tools for that. We will have to use the current tools. We'll have to build tools for that. And then having a sophisticated way to, after having a pulse on everything, having a sophisticated way to calculate and analyze the risks and the issues preemptively almost. And then on the basis of that, almost proactively, having a way to intervene and then course correct, essentially, right? Uh, and I want to just read one of the message at the bottom of the slide, that I think what I want the delivery managers or the project managers to be the leader of the progress, right? Because what we actually are right now, most of the time, are almost like a secretary of the process, right? We almost become like a guardian, or almost like a slave, I would say. I'm using some strong words here, but of the process. I'm a process guy still myself, right? But I'm saying that sometimes we lose the meaning, which is what I'm arguing for, right? I'll move ahead. So of course we're talking about achieving this goal by using AI, right? And most of you, after 3 years into this AI world, might say that we all already use AI, right? What is wrong? We already use Copilot and things like that, right? The thing is that what the things which we are using the Copilot mostly, again, a lot of people have gone a long way, but I'm just looking at an average person who have just been introduced to this world and who have been given tools like that. Mostly they will be using, you'll see them using AI for what I call a glorified autocomplete, right? If you remember Google, well, Google is still there, sorry, it's not an ancient product, but it used to have like an autocomplete. I mean, we always do that. I mean, we type a few words and then 3 more words appear and then the sentence is complete, and that's autocomplete, right? I think the type of usages which are mentioned here, finding grammatical mistakes in our writings, draft emails, we write the email. Some people have seen them writing emails as well, summarizing meetings. Obviously, I do that all the time, turning paragraphs into bullets or the other way around. I mean, these all usages are good, and they are the fundamental building blocks, and you can say the first building block, right? But it's almost like, and I've used that later in the slide, it's for me, it's like using or buying a plane or an aeroplane to just taxi on the runway, right? So this is not what you are supposed to do only. I mean, this is where you start, obviously, but what I'm talking about is to almost gradually build what I called a delivery intelligence system, right? Which again will do the same thing. We'll have its pause and its pulse on everything which is happening on your project, which is the truth, and using that information to be able to analyze the risk and the issue of the project, and then preemptively and do some what if analysis. By the way, what if analysis is very important, because often the thing which was not there before was that we had the data from various sources, but we did not have time and energy and all ambition to basically do all kind of possible permutation combinations analysis to find out if okay, I have these three variables to play with. If I change variable 1 to this, variable 2 to this, what will happen? If I change variable 2 and 3 to this, what will happen? So these type of things you can now do with the recent developments in AI and the tools and like that, right? So the fourth point, most importantly, the thing which I guess right now I'm trying to work on that in my free time is building like a rolling project memory, almost I call it. Like, there should be a way for us to capture everything which is happening every day on the project in various different spaces, and we put that into like a place where it is saved and it is referred all the time when we talk to that AI system which I'm talking about building, right? So how do we achieve all this, right? I mean, this delivery intelligence system of sort, how do we achieve this, right? Again, in 30 minutes, I cannot give you a magic trick, but I'm just telling you some approaches where my mind at, and I'm also not there yet. I mean, I've started to think about it, and I've started to go to the stages and started to go into the direction where what I'm talking about. So the vision, what I'm trying to talk about, or I'm trying to convince people often, is that I want to invest my energies to build what I call AI Project Brain. So what is exactly? Let's understand that a little bit, right? So, so this AI Project Brain, as I call it, and again, the brand name could be anything, right? It's just like a concept. So this brain, as a first step, should be able to have a pulse, as I used the word before, to capture all sorts of information which is coming from things like Teams, chats, transcripts, emails, DevOps or Jira, whatever tool you are using it for, the project details, your project artifacts, obviously, all the documents which we produce at various stages of the project and the pre-project even as well, the SOW and all the pre-sales documents, the RAID items, the risk action items, etc. Even sometimes technical artifacts as well. Like, I mean, I know that not in every project we write code, but in some projects we have a code element as well. So, AI can, you don't have skill. I don't have skill to read the code, but at least AI has the skill to read the code. Essentially, what I'm trying to say, the first, you can say almost like a module for this AI Project Brain thing, is to be able to have a pulse or capture ability to capture all the source of information of your project, right? So that is your, you can say, first capability or first module, and we should be able to, kind of regularly do that, right? The second capability or the second module, almost I call it, is a sophisticated a tool, or you can say module. Once the information is captured, it is able to analyze all that information based on the rules which you define. That is essentially this auto analysis module I'm talking about, and it will be ideal. It will be so good if it is done all in real time, right? And then that analysis will become the input for that early warning mechanism I was talking about in the earlier slides, and then root causes of the issues and alternative plans, etc., etc. And then finally, when once these two capabilities are achieved, which is, of course, it's not straightforward path, right? Then we say that, okay, now you know the data, some insights on that, you've done some analysis on the top of that. Then you talk about letting that brain of yours or AI project brain of yours to take some actions, right? And of course, that is the last stage for me, right? That I wouldn't jump onto doing that at all, because that is something which I wouldn't let any you can say non-human thing to be doing unless I am fully confident that it is on top of all the information. It is having all the right rules to analyze the information. It is making all the right decisions. Then I'll be slowly be getting more comfortable to let it take actions for me. So that's the core vision of having this AI project brain. But of course, as I said, I'll say it again because a few new people I see are joining as well. This is a vision. This is not a product, right? I'm not selling a product here. I'm not showing a demo of the product here. My thought process was that I'm trying to sell this idea that we all, especially the people in the delivery management, the project management space, they need to start thinking in these directions and slowly and gradually going into, evolving their thought process into these things, because these things are possible these days. I mean, I had this vision for like last 10 years, but I mean, I was not able to achieve that, right? Now, possibilities are much better and much more than the previous to achieve all these things. Okay, I'll move forward. So, so how again? I've laid out kind of a five-stage kind of a plan. To how do we achieve that, right? So for me, the first stage is very basic. Everybody is basically talking about it on the YouTube, so I will not again delve into it. It's like, as a first user of AI, of course, you will need to know how to interact with the AI. That is where your prompting techniques and prompting basically comes in, right? So it's like, you have been given a new species. You need to know the language to talk to that species, right? That's where the stage one is about. I'll not further talk about this. Everybody knows what it is, right? Stage two for me is like that some people talk about it, but I think it's not that talked about topic. I feel that it's very important for a user who is getting some value out of the interactions with AI is to understand the context window limits. It's a very technical thing, but I think it is very important to understand that. Again, I think I have maybe I'm getting deep into the details, but essentially I've got a slide for every of this stage, so I'll talk about that later. But I think it is important to know the limits and then how do you work around that? Because if you don't do that, if you're not able to do that well, you'll not be able to build all those tools which I'm talking about building, right? The third stage for me is to build a seamless information capture mechanism for whatever sources which I talked about previously. The fourth stage is basically, having an analysis engine, a fine-tuned analysis engine, which is absolutely analyzing the information the way you want to analyze and the way you're already doing and the way you want to analyze the information. And then finally, that autonomous action agents, which ultimately you will build if you have passed through all these stages. I think we will dive further into these slides, later. Yeah. Okay, so again, as I said before, prompting, I will not teach again. The YouTube is full of this content. Anybody can just Google and then you'll find like 20 videos or 90 videos or whatever, right? But again, I think the core element of this is that when you talk about prompting, you need to be as descriptive and I would say as structured and as context giving as possible, to set the scene properly, to ask properly what you want the AI to be doing, to sometimes define the output formats as well, and also more importantly to define the constraints as well, that what you not want the AI tool to be doing, because you'll understand later that why it is important for you to stop it right there when you're asking the first question, so that you basically you save the context window if you do that. And then there are many other techniques you can apply as well. You can play a particular role. You can you can ask it to provide you the evidence and the confidence scores, etc. But again, I think this is most people who are interacting in some way, I think they should be aware of this particular concept. And again, there's no single size fit all kind of and I think if you're reading the example in the middle of the screen, so this is one example. For example, you're searching something, like if I am searching something on Copilot, so I often do it like this, that base your analysis on, let's say, this RAID item, let's say a risk. Read the last 7 days emails, read the 2 weeks Teams chat, and I can specify what Teams chat. Read the 3 meetings, I specify the meetings. Read these particular 3 Azure DevOps tickets. By the way, Azure DevOps, there's no capability right now in Azure DevOps in Copilot to read the Azure DevOps ticket. That's what I'm trying to build. And then so after reading all these sources, give me the top 3 risks with the owners and the mitigation plans in the form of a table. Don't just dump me with the paragraphs information. And then the last sentence is more like a constraint, where I'm saying the results should focus on the risks faced by the Valrada people, not like the customer people. Again, this is just an example, right? I'll go to the next stage. So the context window. And I would like to spend maybe some time on this one. I know that I can look at the clock as well. I'm happy for people to jump off if they want after, if they want to join the other session. So I think context window for you to understand is that everything which you like, in a brutally simple definition, the context window is the limit of number of, you can say, words which any AI system in one time can process while it is either understanding your question or trying to generate the answer for you, right? So, I mean, these days we have come a long, long way. I mean, the context window, for example, I was just reading, and it might be less accurate, but I think Copilot has about 1.5 million words it can process in one time at the moment to kind of whenever it is talking about analyzing the information. But the thing is, these numbers, these benchmarks look very high and big on paper, but then they're easily reached if you realize. Like, imagine you have started to chat with Copilot for maybe 10 minutes, and after that 10 minutes you have given it like a 30-pager document, and then after 10 more minutes you have given it like another 60-pager document, and then all this time you're conversing with Copilot, you are generating the responses, it is you're generating the questions, it is responding with the answers. I would certainly say that after 30 minutes, whatever, this is my personal experience, the context window limit will be reached, and it will start forgetting where you started the conversation from. And then that is where you start getting confused that I spoke at a great length about this particular topic with Copilot or whatever AI system I'm using, and it is not doing what I'm supposed to do. It is just simply forgetting what was the actual problem, right? So this is why it is important that not only the conversation which you do within the chat thread, that adds to the context limit, but also the documents which you are asking it by default to be reading all the time, that also adds to the context limit. So that is why the prompting also helps if you want to, if you be smart about what you're asking and where you want that tool to be fetching the information from. Anyway, let's talk about some techniques. So I often, and some of these I use, some of them I don't use too much, but again, they're all valuable. So I often sometime when I start feeling that the context window limit might have reached, so I start asking some checkpoint kind of questions in the mid chat that tell me what were we doing, what were our assumptions, and where up till what level we achieved, and what is still remaining to be achieved. So that helps it to kind of remember and recap all the things it was trying to do for us. Sometimes I ask it to basically explicitly list for me that basically where are you, like whatever answer you're giving me, where are you fetching that answer from? Sorry, so I've just clicked 2 times. So yeah, keeping the answers lean is most important in my view, because when you inherently any AI system, all these LLMs have this tendency somehow that they will, if you ask them one-liner question, they will give you like 20-liner or maybe sometimes 30-liner or few paragraphs and bullets answer, right? So you need to realize that every time you're getting a long answer, that is adding to and that is eating up that context window limit, basically, right? So if you need to your conversation go bigger, you will need to somehow ask the question in this way that the answer is smaller. Like, you need to prompt it, you need to direct it to give you short answers, because you can, in that way you can have a longer conversation without reaching the context limit. So that is also one technique to keep the answers lean when you're talking about workarounds for context limits, right? Refresh with the mini briefs, it's kind of midpoint, it's kind of overlapping with the checkpoint mid chat, but I think sometimes that has helped me as well, that just I'm not just what I essentially do, I keep a like whatever the purpose I was trying to fulfill in that conversation, right? I keep a note for the core goals in 4 or 5 bullets, right? And I dump it again that please remember we were doing this. So I don't have to type it again, I just have dump it, so that it helps it remember that what were we doing, and kind of refreshes all the memory. This one has helped me a lot, right? It is interesting. I don't know how many people use this technique. I mean, these names are, by the way, my own name, so it's not a standard name, so you can give it whatever name. Essentially, the concept is that, like, the first time I did it, I was in a deep conversation for an hour. I was just brainstorming some concept for a long time, right? And then at some point I realized that now I've discussed everything which I wanted to discuss. I've gotten all the answers, and I think I started feeling like now the tool, the AI, has understood what I wanted to say. I thought how can I remember? How can I make this tool remember all this context when I am chatting with it at a second time, sometime later, right? I actually ask it, tell me what to do, right? So it suggested me a great thing. It suggested me that, okay, if you, all the concept which you have grabbed so far, if you just give it a name, and I will, summarize all the, condensed understanding I've made after all this thread, and I'll give it a name. Let's say I give it a name of flight 41. I don't know why this name was given, but this is like a variable. It should be a unique variable. It should better not be ABC or XYZ, because it could be referring to anything else as well, right? So, and then I use that flight 41 into another thread, and it kind of remembered everything which I discussed with it. So now imagine that how many things you can do with such a model. You discuss about a particular topic. Before ending that conversation, you give it a name, and the next time you discuss that same topic with AI in a different thread, you try to ask it that, in the context of flight 41, do this, or in the context of whatever, you do this. You try doing this. I think this also helps to remember the context as well. Again, it is different from AI system to AI system as well. Maybe Copilot does it better or not better. Maybe some other tool does it better. Okay, then the last one is just like, basically, if you have a chance, if you can do that, you split your thread into multiple topics. Like if you already know that you're going to talk about 4 topics with that particular AI tool, you should rather than dumping all the 4 questions to it, you rather break it into multiple pieces, and then that's how you do it, right? I'll move on to the next stage. Okay, this is about that capture mechanism I spoke about. That uh, I think that what I want, the real message from this slide, which I want to give, is that the capture mechanisms will not be perfect. Like you will never get a perfect automation that, all of the systems from which you're fetching the data, they will be like all of a sudden they are all connected, and you will automatically, everything starts flowing in that like nirvana. It will never happen like that, right? So we have got different techniques to kind of streamline or smoothen your data capturing mechanisms or processes, right? So one way is the fully automatic way, but the fully automatic way, the problem with that is that it is not possible with every system. You will find some of the Copilot and other connectors with certain databases, but not every database has a connector available. So yeah, in most cases, you might not be able to get a fully automatic capture mechanism. But what you can do is these two. Either you will be using, and which I use a lot of the time, like a hybrid mechanism. When I say hybrid mechanism, the example of that could be that let's say I use Copilot. I'm talking about the M65 Copilot, which is the main chat, which can refer to many different sources. I say that, okay, you go into this meeting of mine, and you go into this email, you go into this Teams chat, and you go into this document, and see whatever is the latest version of all these for today. Summarize me all of that into this format, and I take that format and I dump that format into some kind of a place which can be referred later on. And let's say I start doing that every day. Like it becomes a daily ritual that, I dump all my today's updates from whatever source it can automatically gather, and it gives me a blurb, maybe 2 pages, 3 pages, or maybe more, and I keep on dumping that information at a place every day. I know it will take 5 to 10 minutes, maybe more, 15 minutes, but that database of summary of every day I'm building wherever, that can be used to feed into an AI system, which I was talking about later, right? And it can build that, kind of everyday, evolving memory of that system, which can be used to refer and then, do the analysis on top of it. So that is my hybrid mechanism, in which I'm using some existing AI systems like Copilot. I'm doing some manual operations on top of it, and that's how I'm building that memory. The smart mechanism is like, the name is smart, but it's not using any AI system. It's like I just gave it a flashy name, but essentially this is more like, the example of this one is like, I often have various different Azure DevOps queries in which I want to, fetch certain fields of data for these type of work items, and I want to have a dump every day, which is going to give me the latest details. And I'm using that. I get exported with an Excel file with 300 lines, and I use that. I put that dump that at some place, and then I use that for analysis and daily progression. So that is also one technique you can use. And as I said, I think the key is not using one way or another. The key is to know, or the trick is to know when to use what mechanism, and what mechanism is working better for you, what mechanism is not working better for you, and what mechanism takes you more time versus others, right? So essentially, when I say build information capture mechanism, I mean to say that you need to ace this process. You need to have your own experience. How would you like this information capture to be done? Partly automated, hybrid, or fully manual, right? But again, the value is that if you ace this process, if you make this process repeatable, you'll be able to easily do it, and then that will end up, building your project memory, which is useful for the later purposes you want to achieve. Okay, next one. So that was the stage 3, if you realize. The stage 4 is when if you recap, you now know in the stage 1 that how to prompt to an AI system. You now know that what are the context window limits and how to overcome that, how to work around that. You now know how to capture the information from various different sources. Now is the time that you invest the energies into defining the systems in which you will do that analysis on this information, right? Well, by default, any AI system will do the analysis for you anyway, right? But what I'm talking about is fine tuning that analysis, right? Not letting AI choose whatever the source of information it will choose for you. Rather than that, you control that process, that what information piece is more important than what other information piece. Because it is a risk that the AI system by default might say that, I'll give you an example. Like, for example, because AI, for example, is fetching information from Teams, from emails, from documents. Somehow, for some odd reason, it might decide to use something which you discuss with a person one-on-one over an approved document which was produced by like tens of people, right? So you need to define, you need to tell the AI system that, for some rules. And what I'm talking about, rules like this, that, you might set a precedent that approved docs will always be better and relevant information than an ADO ticket. ADO ticket will be a better information than an email, for example. Email could be a better than than meeting notes and then Teams chat, right? So you get the idea. So again, this is not a gospel. These rules are not gospel. What I'm really talking about is, what your rules are. You as a human, as a project manager or as a delivery manager, when you get information from this person versus that person, or this document versus that document, or this document versus this person, what will you give more weightage to, right? So whatever your rules are, you kind of almost like hard code those rules into the AI system's brain as well, so that whenever it is analyzing the information for you, it is doing that in a fine-tuned way rather than just thinking for itself. So that is the idea what I'm talking about. And then you can you can apply some further techniques as well, in which there is a two-pass method. Two-pass method is more like you almost like hard code in its memory, that you can only, I will consider your response valid only if it is coming from two different distinct sources, and it is passing, like it is it is referenced from two sources. So you can use this mechanism. It could be 3 pass, 4 pass, 5 pass as well. You can almost hard code it to say that, if you're getting information from multiple sources, and if it is conflicting information, then you need to resolve the contradiction first, and then you give the information to me, rather than just dump me with the information, right? And then similarly, you can have many other ways to, again, this is more like a psychology rather than a technical tool. It's like how the way you yourself fact check any information, or you can say, check the authenticity of a particular information. That is exactly how you will train that system to basically, fetch the information, sorry, not fetch, the analyze the information for you, and then give you the answers, essentially. So that is what this is talking about. So, it's a funny kind of line I've written at the bottom, which I really believe in, that in this case particularly, unfortunately, we are living in the world where 1 + 1 might not be equal to 2, because, this is what is happening, right? You'll have to have like other factors in play as well to analyze what 1 + 1 is going to be. Anyway, the fifth stage is the stage which I would not like to talk about because I think I'm not ready for that yet. And I think I also, again, this is one of my core belief that right now, when we talk about AI, I think we have a tendency to always jump onto the buzzwords which industry is using, agents, this and that. I mean, when you talk about agent, well, even some of the agents are pre-built, and when you're using Copilot, you're using those agents anyway. Everybody's talking about building agents to this and to do this and that, but I think sometimes I see people having a lot of focus on doing the AI, letting the AI do the actions for them. This is one way of thinking. I don't mind if somebody is thinking like that, but my feeling is that like my core philosophy is more about using the AI to fetch and collate the data and do the analysis for me, and I will take the action. I will bloody take the action. I will not let the AI take the action for me because it might do something wrong, right? That's the core philosophy that, agents or whatever. But this, for me, this is the fifth and the last stage where I'm so trusting the AI that I want the AI to be taking the actions on behalf of me as well. So yeah, that is why I've not spent too much time on this slide. I've got no content for this. So yeah, so I want the AI to be my ears and eyes and the brain rather than my hands or legs, for example. That's the way to put it. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done with the presentation, but I think, so what do we take out of this session? I guess I understand that most of you might be at some level of, you can say, usage or some level of maturity as per the 5 stages process I spoke about, right? It doesn't matter that if you're in at 0 stage, doesn't really matter, right? My request and my recommendation to you will be that I'm suggesting that let's have a 30-day challenge, right? In which we give ourselves like basically 30 days, which is like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and 2 weeks, 3 sets essentially, right? And we try to ace the stage 1 in the day 1 to 10, which is first 2 weeks. Then we get to the stage 2, and then we proceed further from there, because the stage 3 and 4 is so subjective and so much variables are associated to it that there are so many options to resolve that, right? I think I would like the general population to be at least good at the stage 1 and 2, and then we can proceed further and achieve more greatness in that area further, right? Anyway, so I think that was the idea. I think that is pretty much the end of the presentation. I think whenever we speak next time, maybe we'll talk further on where this AI project brain journey basically went along. And then if we get time, I think one other thing, which again, this is just like a teaser for maybe whenever we have this session again, I ultimately want, what I'm after is to make this delivery process almost like a product of itself. We treat that as just like a facilitation on the side. No, it's not a facilitation. It's a delivery. It's a product itself. So that's what I'm trying to make, that, the way we deliver the projects, it should be like a fancy toy, which can be sellable, which can be sold to the customers. And of course, you aid that, you annotate that, you garnish that with all these facilitation of the technologies, which we use to do the delivery management better. So all of this ambition is coming from that thought that, I ultimately want to make this delivery process as a product, and which is why I'm using all these techniques and tools to make it more, fancy, I would say fancier, to not only on the looks of it, but also on the usage of it as well. I think that's all. Sorry, I think 13 minutes extra. So I think that's enough for now.